you or I from starting our draft evaluations. Like
Yeah.
I started mine a little bit later this year, and it was
Hmm.
based purely on I wanted to focus on the Jets because obviously we're still winning, but there's only so much you can hold off on what your second passion is,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to obviously do this with you and to talk prospects and to start getting these names out there because while yes, we may be talking about this a little bit too early for some fan bases or right on time for some other ones, these are names that we're all going to have to familiarize ourselves with sooner rather than later. So let's start as soon as possible.
That's right. And listen, like Tigo, I'm knee deep, halfway through my classes with the Scouting Academy, so I've been really engulfed in this draft class in particular, watching a lot more film up to this point than I have. So I feel that I got a good grasp, and I can say this. I know it's early. I know it's October. But I think that this is going to be a very, very good, very deep draft class in some positions, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to getting into the nitty gritty of this off season, or this draft season per se, as we lead up to the Senior Bowl and as we lead up to April. Man, I mean, there's nothing better in football, in my opinion, than really kind of diving straight in and trying to find out about these guys, man. This is awesome,
Yeah.
So to those who are watching this, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through. We're going to use PFF, and we've set up the draft order in particular to as close to what it is as we stand right now on Sunday evening as possible. We're going to keep it simple today. It's just going to be one round. It's going to be no trades, and it's just going to be tit for tat. I'm going to start out with the odd teams, and Tigo is going to take the even teams, and we're going to give you some names to think about and throw out there, and we're going to have some fun. What do you say?
I'm ready to do this. I already know because of the order there are going to be some places where we're going to disagree, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for it
Yeah.
because obviously like that's where we're at right now. Nobody's has any type of consensus because well they haven't played enough games yet. We don't know who these kids are. The playoffs haven't started. The rankings are just now starting to fit in, and now we're starting to see the big picture. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And again, we know that this might be a little early for some of you, but deal with it. You're gonna have to learn these names at some point. So what better time than late October to start talking about
Absolutely.
draft prospects? So if you will, I'm on the clock. And who do we have? The Arizona Cardinals, huh?
Yep. They,
And
as of right now, they hold the number 1 overall pick.
this is this to me, obviously, like we said, we kind of set the rules down that we're not going to be trading picks. We're not going to be doing anything, just strictly pick where you are. So this is to me, if Arizona has the number 1 pick, I think that they are open for business, and they are going to move down, and there's just too many good quarterbacks at the top of this draft, and I don't know how Arizona can feasibly get out of the little guy's contract without bankrupting their salary cap, so on and so forth. So it's a tough spot. But for sake of this argument, and not to throw the first mock draft that we're doing all together, I'm just going to play dumb. I'm just going to go ahead and say, listen, Arizona's done it before, right? They drafted Josh Rosen in the first round to only a year later take Kyler Murray. And maybe Kyler Murray comes back from this knee injury and he's everything that they thought he was going to be. But for sake of this argument, and not to throw everything all out of whack, I'm going to pretend that they come to the table again at number 1, and they decide to kind of dip their toes back into the quarterback pool. And I'm going to take what I think is the consensus number 1. I know that some people think differently now. I'm going to go ahead and lock down quarterback Caleb Williams from USC. I still think that he is the best quarterback prospect in the draft. I know, Tigo, you think differently.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're going to share about the guy that you like with one of these 2 next picks with Chicago. But listen, what Caleb Williams can do, the arm talent, what he can do off platform, I think the guy is just a pure winner and I think deserving of the number 1 overall pick if he comes out. So I know this is a little wonky because he's still got Kyler Murray there, but I'm going to take Caleb Williams not to throw off the mock draft off the rails after 1 pick. So
I think if Arizona picks number 1 overall, which I think is highly likely, I think they take Caleb. Caleb is going to have a higher grade than they did on Kyler. And the staff that picked Kyler, I'm almost pretty sure isn't there anymore. I don't even think it's the same GM, right? Or is it?
I believe Steve Keim is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
It's not the same GM. It's not the same head coach. And the reality is that if they were to go to the trade market and try to trade Kyler, I think that there would be teams that would be interested. A team that comes to mind that might be, well, not anymore, because if, Kirk Cousins, if his Achilles truly did pop, like the Viking season might be over and they might be in a position to get a quarterback, but they're a team that might be interested in Kyler and he has a big arm and, partnering him with Justin Jefferson and all of those things like that might be. So there will be trade opportunities there. And if they trade Kyler instead of straight up just cutting him, they can actually still manage the cap in 2024. While I understand why Caleb Williams is the number 1 overall quarterback for a lot of people, the way that I look at it is, do you want crazy traits that are not super honed in, or do you want just solid quarterback play, fitting the ball in tight windows, operating and reading an offense, and doing all of those big QB things? That's why I have the Bears are. You're gonna have a better grade on Drake May than you do on Justin Fields. It's a whole new staff. Eberflus is probably fired, so it's going to be a new staff picking a new quarterback, and they're just going to reset. And having the number 2 and the number 3 pick gives them an opportunity to kickstart their organization in a way that they haven't been able to do for a long time. You already have more there, so get a guy who you are going to have a bigger grade on in Drake May. Your offensive line isn't all that bad. And we'll see what you do with this number 3 pick here, Dom. But I would go either Drake May or Caleb if you're Chicago, because we've seen that the Justin Fields experiment has not worked. He's not hitting open guys. He's not seeing the field. And with this being a whole new coaching staff, potentially with Eberflus possibly being gone, and a whole new general manager, I'm going to want my guy to partner with my coach, and Drake May fits the bill of, in my opinion, elite QB prospect.
Listen, if you're in need of a quarterback and you're picking at the top of this draft, there's probably not a better draft since the Sam Darnold, since the Sam Darnold Baker Mayfield year, where you had these guys that come in. This is the year to go get a quarterback if you need one. So, and listen, Drake May's, a very good consolation prize to Caleb Williams. I mean, he's got that elite arm strength at 6'4", possesses enough mobility, can fling it all over the field from the pocket. I mean, Drake May's a wonderful prospect. So, I'm up, and Chicago's back-to-back here. And to me, again, I'm still at no-brainer moves here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give Drake May wide receiver 1, and I'm going to kind of stay close to home, and I'm going to bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I think that the tape that he's put out, I know he dealt with an injury early on in the year, but just the consensus tape of everything that he's done this year and especially last year as well shows that he has the traits to become a very, very productive wide receiver right from the get-go. I mean, there's, speed, full route tree, route running, agility, strong at the catch point, everything. I mean, everything that you want in a wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. offers you. So, listen, Drake May to Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore on the other side. You got Cole Kmet. You got some nice little pieces in there for whomever the new coach in Chicago is if they decide to move on from Eberflus. So, Marvin Harrison Jr. to Chicago at number 3. And up next for you, Up next for you, the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think the New York Giants, this is a very interesting spot for them because, like, well, if Marvin Harrison was here, you can take Marvin Harrison. At number 4, you could definitely take the consolation prize. And it is a consolation prize. I don't like calling Drake May a consolation prize because I think he's better than Caleb Williams as a prospect. But like Keon Coleman is a guy that I'd be very interested here, as I have him and you as well. We have him as wide receiver 2 in this class. And I think that this might just be a little bit too rich here. And I keep looking at this team and I go, you know what? This draft is going to be in very deep at wide receiver. And you can, if you're picking at the top of the draft order, you're going to be able to get a guy in the second round. But you know who you're not going to be able to get in the second round? Fashanu. You're not going to get an offensive tackle of this caliber like you're at 4 and you need to get this pick right. And for me, between Joe Alt and Fashanu, you can pick whichever one of the ones that you consider best, right? Yeah. But I think you have to take the tackle, and that's what I'm going to do if I'm the Giants. The Evan Neal experiment has not worked at right tackle. The things that he struggled with in college, he continues to struggle with as an offensive tackle at the next level. So what might be best for this football team? Well, we know that Andrew Thomas is going to be here for a long time. So it's not like you're getting Fashanu to play left tackle. You just drafted John Michael Schmitz to play as center, and hopefully he can start turning it around now that he's getting healthy. If you can bump Evan Neal into right guard or left guard and play Fashanu, now you've got the building blocks of what is the potential to be a really good offensive line. And now you're going to give Daniel Jones an opportunity to earn his contract and to earn the right to be on this team because he has one more year to prove himself. They have an out after 2024. And if you get Fashanu, I think that helps that offense more than any wide receiver, more than any guard or center that you're going to get at any of the other spots in the draft. Fashanu with bumping Evan Neal inside, I think is the plan that you got to go with if you're the Giants and you're picking this high.
Yeah, so my only thing with that is that Fashanu, to me, in my eyes, is a pure left tackle. I don't know how much, if at all, he's played on the right side. He's not as, he's as good in pure pass protection as a prospect comes, and the guy just turned 21. I mean, I love Olu Fashanu. I think, and I understand your rationale here, and I definitely think that Evan Neal would probably benefit moving inside to guard. I think he could probably hold that down at the right guard for a while. If it was me, and I'm not criticizing your pick, I'm just talking here. If it was me, I'd probably go Joe Alt because I know you can plug Joe Alt in at the right tackle. If tackle's the way you want to go, I think for the Giants, I'd probably go Joe Alt and just plug and play him there for the next decade or so.
That works. Like, again, I love those guys equally.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really take into consideration, and I should have. You're probably right. Joe Alt probably should be the pick here. Like, you're absolutely right. I just said Joe Alt, Olu. Where's Olu? I saw Olu first, so I just picked Fashanu. I think that the pick here needs to be tackle. That's the point, right? Yeah. Whether it's Olu, whether it's Alt, they'll have their own evaluation, but it's the same way Caleb and Drake are 1A, 1B, and whatever order that you want. Fashanu and Alt are 1A and 1B. There's not much that separates them right now at where we are in the evaluation process.
Yeah. So that leaves me up with the Patriots at 5. And this is an interesting one because the Patriots can go in a bevy of different directions. Yep. Okay. So, I mean, I think Joe Alt and offensive tackles definitely on the, in talks. Yep. In the talk, I think, where do you stand, or where do the Patriots really stand on Mac Jones? Is it too high to go get another quarterback right now? This might be, maybe this is the comfortable point. Maybe it might be a little too high for QB3 to come off the board. I mean, we know that they need skill position help out the wazoo. So do they take a wide receiver? Brock Bowers is definitely up in conversation as well, because you know how much that offense and New England has a history of producing good tight ends. And then on the defense, okay, so we've heard that Josh Uche's name is being bantered about. as a possible, trade, deadline, move. So you got a pass rusher that you're going to have to replace. Matt Judon's getting up there in age. He's still productive, even though he's hurt right now. He's still productive, but he's getting up there in age. So I think you can go a bevy of different ways here for the Patriots. And I'm back and forth, man, but I'm going to go ahead, and this is probably going to be a little bit off kilter here, but I'm going to say the Patriots don't plan on picking in the top 5 anytime soon. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock down the replacement for Mac Jones. I don't know if Mac Jones is the future. And this might be a little bit outlandish or a little bit out there, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dip back into the pool of the University of Michigan. I'm going to take JJ McCarthy. He's got everything, I think he's going to be a better pro than he is a college player, first and foremost. He doesn't have the elite arm talent that the 2 quarterbacks before him have, but he's got those innate abilities to, see the field. He processes the field very well. He's mobile enough. I think he's young. He's only going to get better. I think this is a good spot for him to come in and land. 5 might be a little bit rich for JJ McCarthy, but I'm going to go ahead and soak him up. I think they kind of put the Mac Jones experience behind them, and they take their next best quarterback on the board. Now, I will say this. I'm working under the assumption that Shedeur Sanders is not available in this class. I think he's going back to school. We probably should have laid that out beforehand, but not that I would have taken Shedeur Sanders this high, but some people are going to argue that Shedeur Sanders might be the next best quarterback after May and Williams are off the board. But I'm going to go ahead and take McCarthy and hope that Michigan strikes it rich for New England again. So you are up with the Raiders.
I think that's very interesting. I am with the Packers. I think that's very interesting because I don't think personally that New England is going to go quarterback. That is going under the assumption that Bill Belichick is willing to admit his faults and isn't going to be enticed by a prospect like Joe Alt at all. And I think that's very interesting. I also don't have JJ McCarthy right now in October in my top. He is my 5th QB. So I think that this is very interesting spot for him with some of the other guys. But if you're Green Bay and you're picking 6 and you have Jordan Love, who you're going to have to give some more time, I think that you're jumping to the moon because Joe Alt just sits there and falls into your lap. David Bakhtiari continues to not stay healthy. It's a problem. You need to address this offensive line because Jordan Love just isn't able to operate the offense with that much pressure in his face. And that's it. So the Notre Dame prospect goes to Green Bay. And I think that this is a match made in heaven for both teams because Joe Alt gets the opportunity to play left tackle immediately. He's going to get partnered with a very, very good right tackle in Zach Tom, who the Green Bay Packers were able to find in the middle parts of the draft a couple years ago. And now you're starting to build. Now you got bookend tackles for the next 10 years. And now you can really give Jordan Love this opportunity to see, what are you? And while I did consider wide receiver here, because Keon Coleman there would be insane, you can't keep throwing assets in the wide receiver room. Watson is a 2nd-round pick. Dubs is a 4th-round pick. They just got another rookie this year. Jaden Reed in the 2nd round. Like, you can't just keep throwing assets at the wide receiver room. So you got to make it work with your wide receivers. And you just took Musgrave and he looks kind of okay. So let's just be there. Let's fix this offensive line. Joe Alt, you're a Packer.
No, and I love that pick as well. I think he lives, breathes, and smells like a Packer too. Nonetheless, I think he's Joe Alt's as good of a prospect. When like I said, I compare those two between Fasciano and Joe Alt. I think Fasciano has the chance to be very, very special. Maybe a higher ceiling than Joe Alt, but I think Joe Alt's floor is a lot higher. And Fasciano's been on pretty much came into this year unscathed until, that Ohio State game where, he was kind of shown to be a little bit vulnerable. So I'm really curious to find out how the top of the tackle board kind of works itself out as we get into the draft season. But yeah, Joe Alt, like I said, to the Packers just smells right, and that leaves me up with the Raiders. Man, the Raiders they are a interesting. Is their coach going to be there next year? Is their defensive coordinator going to be there next year? They have so many holes, in my opinion, that I think you can go a bevy of different ways. And this is probably one of the teams that we talk about, even though we're not doing trades, that could be in the conversation to trade up, depending on where they end up, come April in their draft status. So I think that they could easily trade up to, to secure one of those top guys. Taking a quarterback here is kind of risky business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's other holes that they have as well. I think a tackle could make sense, if you bring in a right tackle as well. But there's probably, now that Fashanu and Alt are off the board, it's probably not anyone that I'm willing to take here in the top 10.
So then it's a perfect Raiders pick then.
Yeah, right. There's a bunch of different ways they can go, and I think I'm going to probably go a little bit off the beaten path here and go a different way than many mock drafts that I've seen up to this point have gone. Yeah, I think I am. I'm going to go ahead and I'm looking at the Raiders defense, and there's holes in the middle on the defensive line. Yep. But I think this might be a little bit too rich. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock in for the Raiders. Probably right now, maybe the best defensive back in the draft. He just produces at 6'1", runs, he'll end up probably with a 4.5, 4.4 40. Just smooth, can play press, can play off man, handles his zones well. Just, PBR monster in Kool-Aid McKinstry. And he's going to be my pick for the Raiders. I mean, yeah, at some point they have to start throwing assets or throwing resources at the back of that defensive backfield. And he might, there's a bunch of different ways to go. I thought about an edge rusher to go opposite of, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Who's their big opposite of Max Crosby? I'd really like to secure the defensive line as well and put another body in the middle there. And I really considered Jer'Zhan Newton, but it's probably a little too rich here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock down cornerback 1 for them in Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I think Kool-Aid's going to come in and immediately help that defense a lot. Mm-hmm. On the back end, because like you said, he can play man, he can play zone, he can do everything. I haven't really dove too deep into the corners, so I don't have like a plethora of knowledge on everybody, but the two that I know that are going to be studs are going to be Kool-Aid McKinstry, and the guy that I think I'm going to take here with the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Indianapolis Colts picking at 8, I think that their biggest problem is not on the offense. I think their offensive line is actually kind of okay. I like Raymond there. Kelly's playing out of his mind. You hope that Freeland can start living up to, the potential that he has. But I don't see the issue being Indianapolis scoring points. Indianapolis is scoring points. The problem is that their defense can't stop a nosebleed. And while there are a lot of really good edge rushers, I don't think that the problem with that team is their edge pressure. I think it's their secondary. The players in the secondary aren't all that good. And when you have an opportunity I was hoping that Kool-Aid would slip here because I think that would be such a good fit for Indianapolis. Yeah. But since he's not there, I'm going to take what seems to be, cornerback 2 in a lot of different places that I'm seeing. And again, this can go a couple of different ways, but I think you have to get a DB. I think safety is too rich here at 8. Because the Miami kid, why am I Cameron Kinchins? I think it's too rich for him here, and so I'm gonna take the Iowa corner, Cooper DeJean here. I think the kid's got it. I think he can play. I think he's really, really fast and athletic, and I just think he's a rangy corner. Now,
Yeah.
how is he going to fit in that Indianapolis scheme? I'm not 100% sure, but it's a whole new coaching staff, and that's your job, is figure out how to make these kids fit, fix that defense, and you can do that by adding a really, really, really good corner in Cooper DeJean, who's really being a part of why Iowa is even competitive this year, because Iowa's offense this year is not good, but Cooper is a big part of why that defense is.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about DeJean is he's, he plays corner now. I think his best position in the pros will probably be at free safety, but he can play nickel, very similar in flexibility, positional flexibility to Brian Branch last year, and we've seen how that's worked out. Even though their games might be a little bit different, Cooper DeJean is a ridiculous athlete, and I think that you're banking on the athletic traits really showing up at the next level. You know that he can play on the outside, on the boundary. You know that he can play in the slot. He can play up in the box as as kind of like an overhang or rover safety. He can play the deep middle in a free safety. You know he's going to affect the game on special teams as a returner and a gunner. Cooper DeJean is just a phenomenal athlete, and he's done himself a whole lot of justice this year.
Yeah.
So that leaves who? That leaves me.
You with Denver.
Denver, big win today for Denver. I tell
win.
you, yeah. So Denver's an interesting team as well. I know there's a lot of grumblings about the quarterback position here, and I don't think that they're getting off of Russell Wilson anytime soon in that contract. So, and you know what? And he's actually been playing okay. Call it what it is. He's not the Russell Wilson of old that we knew, but he hasn't been playing terribly. So I'm going to shy away from the running back position, and where I'm going to focus. I think I know where I'm going. I'm going to assume that the offense is going to look a little bit different in terms of personnel next year, right? We know that Jerry Jeudy and or Courtland Sutton could both be gone.
Yep.
So I'm going to probably go to that wide receiver room, and I'm not going to take Keon Coleman, even though I think Keon Coleman's arguably the second best receiver right now in the league. But if they keep Courtland Sutton, who has a big contract, they already got their big kind of X receiver out there, which is where I think Keon Coleman kind of translates into the NFL. So I'm going to go the other route, and I'm going to take the speedy, shifty Malik Neighbors. Wide receiver from LSU. Listen, he comes in and he takes Judy's, the role that Jeudy has, and he's your move receiver, and kind of he can play outside. He can play in the slot. Again, a full route tree. Strong hands, good yak. Good yards after the catch, and can take the top right off the defense as well. So, to me, I think this is probably as good of a fit for Malik Neighbors as any other NFL team out there. So Malik Neighbors, let's ride. It's Bronco time.
I think that's a great pick. I find it very interesting because the pick for Denver today and Tuesday can be wildly different, or today and Wednesday can be wildly different. Because right now you're taking Malik Neighbors. But what happens if Wednesday comes along, Sutton's still on the team, Judy's still on the team and gets an extension? Now you're going a completely different direction because, well, you're not going to take another wide receiver if you have Sutton and Jeudy, or are you? You might do what the Cincinnati experiment. So I love this Denver pick. I think Los Angeles is picking in the first round for the first time in
In
a
however long
time.
we can, however long
The-
we can remember, exactly.
Since Jared Goff, right? And this is an opportunity for them to really get an impact player. And while they would have hoped that one of these offensive linemen would have gotten all the way here, none of them did. And while you can start possibly looking at one of the, that tier 2 of tackles, your Fuagas, your Lathams, your Mims, and those guys, I think you only have a certain amount of time of Aaron Donald left.
Mhm.
And if you're going to try to capitalize on what is Aaron Donald, try to get him some help on that defensive line. And when you got a guy who is just pure speed and twitch and explosiveness off of the line in Chop Robinson, to
Oof.
put him over the top of Donald so that Donald just takes the triple team and now Chop is coming in. I don't understand how you don't find that in mouth watering if you're Los Angeles. Is Chop Robinson the best edge prospect? No. He's got work that he needs to do. But the partnership of Robinson and Donald is what entices me because of that explosiveness, is because of that first step. He's going to create space for Donald. Donald is going to create space for him. And now you're building up a pass rush that should once again be really, really lethal. And hopefully in a couple years, a year or two from now, Chop develops his whole pass rush skill set and becomes more than just a speed rusher, which I think is what he's going to be asked to do in year one. And I think that even if he's just a speed rusher in year one, I think he can be really good at just that job in year one as he develops the rest of his skill set.
Yeah, this might be a little too rich for me personally on Chop Robinson. Like I said, I can't argue with that. The step and how he can affect the game as a pass rusher. I just think that I think I would have went edge, but there might have been a different avenue I went. But you can't argue with what you're saying about Chop Robinson and how he affects the game and with that speed and kind of like a 1-2 counter punch there with Aaron Donald. Now you can get ridiculous pressure from the inside and the outside, and go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other thing is that they play a 3-4, so theoretically you could ask Chop to cover a tight end for 2 seconds and it not be a disaster. And that's, again, is he my number one edge? No. But this partnership, that to me just works. It just works. And that's why I went that way.
Yeah. And that leaves me up with Washington, right?
Yes, sir. Washington Commanders.
Washington's in need of a tackle. And again, I just don't know if this is the area that I would probably go get one. So I'm going to go ahead and probably, they're going to lose one of their edge rushers also. So defensive line is definitely in play here. Nah, I can't do it. I'm going to get off of the defensive edge. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Brock Bowers, and I'm going to listen. What Brock Bowers can do, at the tight end position, as a glorified big slot. He's a wide receiver in a tight end's body. It's hard not to like Brock Bowers, right? And I think that. At some point they're going to have to, and you see how Sam Howell's utilizing the tight end this year. You got your outside guys, you got your top 2 wide receivers, in check and under contract for a while. This is a good third option for Sam Howell, and that there's so many, like I said, there's so many different ways they can attack this, but why not just give him another option? To me, I think Brock Bowers makes sense for just about any team in this draft, not named Kansas City with Travis Kelce there. You can make an argument that Brock Bowers can fit in anywhere at that 6'4", 230 pounds. What he's done in college. He's a matchup nightmare. I like him to, replace the tight ends that they have in there now and move on and give Sam Howell another lethal weapon on that offense.
I love this pick. This is the pick that I would make. I think this is the pick that Washington is hoping that they can make. As you know, and some of you who in this chat may know, may not know, I was a huge Sam Howell guy when he was coming out of the draft. I had him as QB1 over Kenny Pickett. I really liked Sam Howell and helping him. He's got Scary Terry, and I love that connection there. He just threw for 4 interceptions, and while yes, that offensive line is a disaster, I totally agree with you that at 11, it might be a little bit too rich to go and get an offensive lineman right now. But what's the next best thing? Get a tight end who can help in the pass protection and can also has really good hands. I love this pick. And moving on, we go to Arizona, who has Houston's pick. So they're picking here at 12 again. And I think this is another where it's a match made in heaven. Earlier in the draft, they took their new franchise quarterback and they get a franchise wide receiver as well here at number 12. And they walk away with QB1 and wide receiver 2 at 1 and 12. And that's a great haul if you're Arizona. And that kick starts your offense in a massive way. They have been desperate to find that X receiver. The DeAndre Hopkins experiment looked like it was going to work, and it just didn't work out with Kyler Murray and D-Hop. And that match didn't necessarily work. Hollywood Brown is a great weapon, but he's not wide receiver 1, and he shouldn't be. And the rumors are that they want to keep Hollywood Brown. Well, that's great. If you've got Hollywood Brown in the slot or in the Z opposite of Keon Coleman out of Florida State, now you've got your big X who can just go up there and get the ball and make guys miss, and he is just stronger than you. Doesn't matter what the DB, he's just stronger than you. Give your quarterback a guy whose range is anywhere he can reach the ball. Because I swear to you, Keon Coleman can probably catch a ball with 2 fingers and just snap it out of the air like chopsticks. I love this kid. I have him as wide receiver 2, and him going to Arizona, I think makes too much sense. The fact that he made it all the way to 12 surprises me. But if you're Arizona and he's here, you sprint to the podium.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The fit makes sense. The understanding of what he can offer in regards to the wide receivers that they have on the team already. Michael Wilson, the rookie, very nice player, not to the level of receiver that Keon Coleman could be. They also have Marquise Brown. He's going to play in the slot and so on and so forth. So it makes their offense a lot more dynamic. I hadn't thought about Keon Coleman, lining up and ending up in Arizona, especially with the defensive head coach and kind of some of the liabilities that they have on the defensive side of the ball. But I love the fit. Fit. It makes sense.
That was a big thing that I struggled with, was the idea of, well, you can get Latu here, you can get Newton here, you can get Verse here, you can maybe even help those DBs, and you can get King here. Like, there was a lot of different ways that you can go, but I think that it's easier to, this is going to sound really bad because it's not easy to find good players at all. Mm-hmm. But I think it is easier for you to find fill-in defensive players that can keep you in games than it is to find players that are going to help you take over a game. And a combo of Caleb Williams and, Keon Coleman, that with Hollywood Brown on the other side, that can help you win games. Partner that with Trey McBride, who you and I were big on when he was coming out. Like, Now you're starting to build up pieces. Austin Eckler is going to be a free agent. Saquon Barkley is going to be a free agent. Now you have this extra money theoretically to maybe go out and get a running back. Now you've got an offense that can win you games. And then as you continue to build up your team, you can start picking up these defensive players. And instead of going defense through the draft, you can maybe pick up defense in free agency. while you're having a youthful offense. And that's the way that I kind of played that in my head, because you can find your Sheldon Rankins and your those types of guys to fill in for a year or two. Look at what Houston is doing. They went youth on offense and veterans on defense, and it's working, except for Will Anderson. He's obviously a stud as a rookie, but you get what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Makes sense. And I'm on the clock here with Tennessee.
Yep.
Tennessee is another team that can go so many different ways. They need to figure out what they're going to do at left tackle, right? They got Skoronski at left guard, who's been playing lights out. He's got the ability, like you know very well that he was my favorite and what I thought was the best offensive line prospect in last year's class. I think he can move and play outside, although I don't know if Tennessee does. And they paid some big money to Andre Dillard, who has in 8 weeks already lost his starting job, and I think they have Nicholas Petit-Frere, the Ohio State draft pick from 2022 kind of man in that. They drafted Jalen Duncan from Maryland last year, but I think he's more so playing on the right side. So that offensive line needs some help. But when I think of Tennessee, again, I'm thinking on this defense right now, and they have taken so many shots at the cornerback position and have come up lane. Now, Roger McCreary, second round pick in 2022, I think he's turned into he's playing himself a good cornerback, but he's a nickel. He's a slot corner. They run with Sean Murphy Bunting and Christian Fulton. Christian Fulton was a early second round pick. He hasn't worked out. They took the kid. I think they actually cut him from Virginia Tech a couple years ago, who was hurt. He didn't work out. They got a couple other, undrafted rookie free agents on the team. So, I'm between taking the left tackle, the next best pure left tackle in the class, I think, here, or addressing that defensive backfield. And I think a guy like cornerback Nate Wiggins from Clemson is probably too good of a prospect to pass up at this point. Nate Wiggins, 6'2", pushing 200 pounds, pure athlete. Again, super willing, capable hitter. Very, very good in run support. Got those buttery hips that can flip and run. He breaks on the ball great. He's long, he's lean. There's a lot of that stuff that, those traits that you look for in a defensive back that you can't really coach or teach up, that he has. And I think he's playing himself up to the argument right now in October as the second best cornerback in this class. I think he's, and like I said, I think Cooper DeJean is going to probably transition and probably be a safety at the next level. So to me, Nate Wiggins is the next best cornerback after Kool-Aid. So he's going to be my pick here for Tennessee, and hopefully they finally can fix this defense up a little bit.
I think it blows my mind that they haven't been able to figure this out. I feel really bad for Caleb Farley. But again, he's on the PUP list, man. He stays injured, and then obviously the whole situation with his father, and that house exploding and all of that. It's just a sad situation because they keep throwing assets at this DB room, and it just isn't working out. And if this defense can hold it together, I think the Titans now, with Will Levis, notable QB2 by Tego last year, behind CJ Stroud, just threw for 4 touchdowns, and that offense was working and it was firing, and that offensive line wasn't perfect, but it held up enough, and they were able to go out there, and yes, it's the Atlanta Falcons, so take that with a grain of salt, but you're supposed to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and that's exactly what the Falcons were to the Titans, and that's what they did. They went out there and they beat them, and they scored a ton of points doing it, and they looked good on offense doing it. I totally love the pick, putting Wiggins there, and hopefully this whole move with DB works for them and it fixes their situation. Now you have to go to the Chargers, or not you. I have to go to the Chargers. And I think this is almost too easy of a pick.
I know who I would take if I was the
Jerjon
Chargers.
Newton.
Absolutely.
Right?
At some point, you gotta be able to stop the run. You gotta put somebody in the middle there that's not named Sebastian Day. And they haven't been able to do it yet. They haven't been able to figure it out. So
this is a matchup. This is a pick and team that you're going to hear about all offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the Chargers? Who should the Chargers take? Jerjon Newton. That's it. So get familiar with this pairing, because if he's available and the Chargers don't take him in any mock draft, throw that mock draft out. Just throw it out. Yeah, I get the arguments for Newton. I think he's a little bit shorter he's 6'2", 295. He's maybe a little bit smaller on the side I don't care. The guy's a stud, easily the best interior defensive lineman in this draft. Get Khalil Mack and Bosa Jr., and I know that he's the older Bosa, but he's not as good as his younger brother. So he's Bosa Jr. Get Bosa and Mack some help. They need to figure out something to do on the interior there. I know that they just took a guy that you and I really liked on last year's draft, Tui Pelotu. They're playing him in the interior some, and that's kind of working. But let's get a true interior, not an edge guy playing on the inside like JFM, if you're familiar with the New York Jets. Let's just get him a true interior defensive lineman in Newton and just stop the run just once. Just tackle a running back at the line of scrimmage once. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the pick I would have taken as well. Like I said, to me, it's at some point they're going to have to fix that run defense. And I think it starts with a good big body up front who can also penetrate and affect the pass game as well. Yep. So I like it. And that leaves me up with who? Tampa Bay.
You're with Tampa.
Man, Tampa Bay. Let's see here. Hang on one second. Let me just update my board here. You took Jerjon Newton. Tampa Bay is an interesting one, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, another team that has a lot of holes. Who plays quarterback for them next year? Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Who's playing quarterback for them now? Please help me, Tigo.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. I couldn't think of his name. Has he earned another contract? What happens at receiver? Mike Evans, do they bring him back? Does he walk as a free agent? Chris Godwin, coming 1 year removed from that knee injury. He's under contract for a little bit longer. So that could be, a way to go. The offensive line is in shambles, especially on the interior. I know they lost their center again for a second year, but I don't think I'm gonna take an interior guy this high here. So to me, it comes down to what do you want to do at Tampa Bay? You have a defensive-minded coach in Todd Bowles, assuming he's there next year.
Yep.
So you know how much he values the defense. There, Joe Tryon hasn't really lived up to the billing that he had as a first-round pick a couple years ago, and I believe he's in his walk year or close to it, if not this year. Maybe it's next year. Let me just check on that before I move on. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tryon was 21, so he is under contract next year. Joe Tryon, Schwenka, however you want to call it. Does Devin White come back? He asked for a trade. They got Shaq Barrett. They got Levante David. They drafted Servasier Dennis last year. I'd like to see him get some time. Kalijah Kancey's been doing wonders for them. Vita Vea is getting up there in age. So their defense is still kind of good, but they're kind of all long in the tooth. Like I said, I would love to kind of fix some of the issues that they have on the inside. Cody Mock, their second-round pick from last year, has kind of looked overwhelmed coming from, North Dakota State. But, I think he's got a future in the league. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to change I was going to take a quarterback here. I was tempted to do it. But I think I'm going to change my mind. And I'm going to go ahead. I don't know what to do. I'm going to go ahead and take an interior offensive lineman. I'm going to take an interior offensive lineman who can kind of be a road grader as such, and is a road grader as such. I mean, he's a physical specimen, dominating. He's been playing right tackle this year and playing it pretty well. I think his best move is to move to guard, and maybe move Cody Mauch over to the left side, or Cody Mauch can play center, or maybe
I think that's where he ends up.
Or maybe Oregon State tackle Talisi Fuaga, who I'm taking here for Tampa Bay, kind of works himself into the right tackle spot, and you worry about the interior later on in the draft. But I think Fuaga can be a really, really good right tackle, bookend to Tristan Wirfs. But I think he could be a real dominating interior offensive lineman as well. So he's skyrocketing up people's draft boards. So Talisi Fuaga is going to be my pick here from Oregon State for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this is I think you have to address that offensive line. They're not being able. I've watched every Tampa Bay game this year because I have Chris Godwin and White on my fantasy teams. So I've been watching Tampa, and the offensive line just hasn't. You got the season-ending injury, the surprise retirement, all of the things and the situation that's going on with that offensive line. Cody Mauch has not looked good. And I was a huge Cody Mauch guy. And I said it before the draft. I actually said that he could play all 5 offensive line positions by himself at the same time because I just love the kid. But I think you and I had this conversation where I said I think he ultimately ends up at center because I think that's where he should play, just size-wise. He was a tight end 2 years ago, and now he's an offensive lineman. So I love this pick. And Fuaga bumping into right guard, left guard is going to help that team out a ton. Now we have to talk about the Saints.
Before we get into that, I think we're halfway through. I believe that was pick 16, or is that 15?
That is pick 15.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and take the Saints pick at 16, and then we'll just recap the first half for everyone before we go into the second half.
Absolutely. It is so hard to predict what the Saints are going to do because we don't know what their roster is going to look like. They need to find $71 million. They are $71 million in the hole right now. And I just don't know what the right answer here is. And I don't know where you're going to go with this team. Are you going to go on the offensive side of the ball and try to help Derek Carr and maybe get a wide receiver here and go Rome O'Dunes and get that kind of player? And now you got Michael Thomas and Chris Olave and O'Dunes, and you try to run it that way. Do you try to go to the edge, which this class is very, very deep in, and address that? Do you get a DB? I don't know what the answer is for the Saints. But I think never mind, I've changed my whole thing just remembering that Granderson and Jordan are their edge rushers. And that's not a point about them and their ability, because I think they're playing really well. It's more about Jordan's age. Isn't he 35?
It's close to it, if not.
Like, you have to have his heir apparent in the building. And I don't know if they do, to be fair. I'd have to go look that up. But if you're staring down the barrel of Jared Verse, I don't see how you pass that up. With his tape, with what he put on tape last year, and yes, this year, not as good. I think he's asked to play a different role this year, a little bit. But I still have Jared Verse as one of the best edges in this class. And if he can sit behind Jordan for another year, or if Jordan retires and now you've got it, I think it's plug and play I think you got to go Jared Verse. I almost went Kalen King here, but Jordan is 35. And your corners, I think right now, are adequate. They're not good. They need an upgrade at corner, but they're adequate. Lattimore's good. Let me correct that. Marshawn Lattimore is a good corner. But you can still improve that secondary. Get the Honey Badger some help. Get Lattimore some help by getting to the pass rusher more effectively and in waves. I'm going to take Jared Verse.
Yeah, listen, Jared Verse, he's not getting home as much as he did last year, but I mean, he's as stout against the run as any of these other big name edges in this class is as well. I think his game translates very well to the NFL. So I like the pick. I like the player. He's probably off the board earlier than this come April. If I was to guess, but just the way that the board fell now, that's where we are. So why don't you go ahead and spit back the top 16?
Yeah, so recapping the top 16 picks, at number 1 overall to the Arizona Cardinals went Caleb Williams. Then the Bears back-to-back went Drake May and Marvin Harrison Jr., resetting their offense for years to come. The New York Giants moved offensive tackle Evan Neal to the inside and went Olu Fashanu to try and fix up that offensive line. The New England Patriots said, nope, we're done with the Mac Jones experiment and went with J.J. McCarthy. Green Bay addressed their offensive line by taking offensive tackle Joe Alt. The Raiders continue to draft guys with really, really cool names. They got Smoke Monday on that team. They got Divine Diablo. Now they got Kool-Aid McKinstry. The Colts got one of the most versatiles, and I'm not going to call him a cornerback. I'm just going to say DB in Cooper DeJean because he can play everywhere in that defensive back room. Love it. We're assuming Denver's going to trade their wide receiver, so they address that position of need almost immediately and get Malik Neighbors. The Los Angeles Rams get the most twitched up edge rusher in the class in Chop Robinson. Washington helps Sam Howell and that offensive line by taking Brock Bowers, the tight end. Arizona gets their quarterback, a new plaything, and Keon Coleman at wide receiver. Tennessee addresses the cornerback room again and takes Nate Wiggins. Hopefully this one works out. The Chargers take the only player whose name they should say when it comes draft day, and Jerjon Newton, the interior defensive lineman. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers address the offensive line with Talise Fuaga, and as we all heard, the New Orleans Saints get their Cam Jordan replacement in Jared Verse, Florida State edge.
And that leaves me on the clock with number 17. Who is it? The Jets?
The New York Jets. I'm going to say this right now. I already don't like the pick. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it because I know you're not going to go the way that I would go, but that's that.
So let's talk turkey here, Tigo. All right. This is assuming that Aaron Rodgers is back and healthy.
Yep. As
he will be probably week 17. That's fingers crossed against the Washington Commandos this season.
Yep.
I think that you have to you'd be stupid as Jets fans. We know if you don't protect Aaron Rodgers, and we've seen what's happened to this offensive line being decimated yet again with 2 more injuries today, totaling, I think we're down 4 starters, right? 3 starters in our first backup in Elijah Vera Tucker, Joe Tippmann, Connor McGovern, and now Wes Schweitzer. What happens to the Jets offensive line next year? Okay, let's talk about that. You have Mekhi Becton. You did not take on the 5th-year option. So do you bring him back? Does he re-sign? If he does, is he a left tackle? Is he a right tackle? I don't know. You have Elijah Vera Tucker, and signs are pointing, at least, if you want to believe what Robert Saleh is saying, that, there's a good chance that he sticks at right tackle.
From the reports that I've seen from people in the building, that's what they've told him, that he's the right tackle of the future.
Okay. You have Joe Tippmann, who was off to a really, really good start. You drafted him to be your center of the future, and maybe that's still where he ends up. I think he's a damn good guard.
Oh yeah,
So I would personally keep him there,
me too.
and worry about the center, either later in this draft or, through via free agency, so on and so forth. I don't know. But the big question is can these guys stay on the field, right? We know that the injury history that Mekhi Becton has. We know and we don't like to talk about it, but we now have to talk about an injury history for Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yep.
We drafted Carter Warren last year, who has, some chops in him. He's going to need a little bit, but you hope that he can turn into, maybe a starter down the road, or at worst a swing tackle. You got Max Mitchell, who has been adequate at best at times, very dominant in the run game and sketchy against the pass at right tackle.
Yeah.
But it's so hard for me. It's so hard for me to turn a blind eye at some of these receivers here. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to take a receiver.
I hate this pick.
I'm not going to take a receiver, although I'm tempted. But knowing that, right, as we stand right now, we don't have a second-round pick. I don't think that the Jets want to wait until late day 2, early day 3 again to address the offensive line. So I'm going to go ahead and take who's my tackle 3 in this class. And that's the youngster out of Georgia, Armarius Mims. Fluid mover. The guy, for a guy who's 6'7", 340 pounds, the guy moves and gets into the second level very well. He's not scheme specific. He can play with power. He can, like I said, he works in space very well. I think he could fit the outside zone scheme. He's, he's just 21 years old, and he's already, got a good footing, good hand strikes, good footwork to anchor against the pass on the outside. I think some might say it's a little too early for him, but again, in this no trade situation, I think that you just bite the bullet and take the best player to fit your biggest need right here and right now. It's not that much of a stretch. I'm going to go ahead and take Armarius Mims for the New York Jets.
I understand why you're making this pick.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it twisted. This is just not the pick that I would make. I look at it and I go, we have thrown assets, multiple first-round picks, multiple day 2 picks, multiple day 3 picks at the offensive line. And the way that I look at it is that there's 2 areas that need to be addressed this offseason, in my opinion. And that's wide receiver. And in this position, I would have looked at the wide receivers if one of the Keon Colemans or the Malik Neighbors was here. Mm-hmm. That's where I would have gone. Now that they're not, and now we're looking at Roma Dunes and the other Florida State kid, maybe not. Maybe you trade back in this situation, which we're not doing. But I would have gone quarterback. I think that this is by far and away the best quarterback draft that we've seen in a long time. I think you and I can both agree, whether or not we think Zach is good or bad or whatever. If he is good, he's not going to be here next year. If he is bad, I don't think he's going to be here next year. And you have to look beyond the Aaron Rodgers years. Mm-hmm. And assuming Aaron Rodgers plays for the next year or 2, when is the next time that you theoretically are going to be picking in the top 20 in a class that's this heavy at quarterback? That's where I would have looked at. Now, with J.J. McCarthy gone, and I think that was a little bit of a reach. I'm not going to sit here and lie. That would have been the pick that I would have made here. And staring down the barrel of Bo Nix and Michael Penix, who are both going to be 24 at the time of the draft, to then have them sit for 2 years, now they're 26. This is too early for Riley Leonard. I get it, but that's what I would have done personally. I think the quarterback is the move.
Yeah, you don't think that just kind of is kind of not looking at the immediate with strong enough lenses, right? Why did Aaron Rodgers, the tiff started in Green Bay? And again, you're not drafting to appease Aaron Rodgers. Let me preface by saying that. But they traded up to take Jordan Love, the heir apparent, to learn under Rodgers, and that didn't go over too well. If you got 1 year, if you got 2 years more of Aaron Rodgers, why not kind of push your chips to the middle, make sure that he's secure? Wide receiver was an area that I looked at. And I know, this was definitely probably too high. But I really thought about the defensive line as well. You're going to need to replace some of those big bodies in the middle. Quentin Jefferson, playing great this year, but he's on a 1-year contract. Al Woods just blew his Achilles, and he was only on a 1-year contract. On top of it, I think he's 34 years old.
Yep.
So you're going to need another bigger body in there.
Yep.
So I looked long and hard at the safety position as well, to find your heir apparent to Jordan Whitehead, and or push Tony Adams a little bit. Cam Kitchens is perfect. He would be perfect in that defense, but to me, those needs didn't kind of outweigh what the true issue of this team right now without Aaron Rodgers is what's happening up front. 22 pressures we let up today to the Giants, and that's just too much. Injuries are what they are, and you can never really account for them. The only way to account for them is to develop young players and have depth, and which is why I move towards Armarius Mims.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, and then I'm going to make my pick here for the Bengals, because I think it's pretty easy, is that I think the spat in Green Bay happened because he found out on draft day. If we told Aaron, hey, we need to think beyond just the 2 years that you're going to give us, I think it goes a little bit better than what it did in Green Bay, because I think we'll involve him in that process and ask him what he thinks. But that's besides the point. Let's move on. I have the Cincinnati Bengals, and there is only one pick that the Cincinnati Bengals can make.
Only one.
There's only one at this point. And that's take the best tackle that's available. Give me.
Don't die on it yet. Don't die on it yet.
Not yet. Let me at least finish the next couple of picks, right? I'm going to take J.C. Latham. I've seen a lot of people are big J.C. Latham fans. Mm-hmm. I am personally, as of right now in my evaluation process, not the biggest J.C. Latham guy. I'm hoping that can change with more tape and just me really taking a deep dive in the kid. But I know a lot of people are big J.C. Latham fans. The offensive line in Cincinnati, I think, is the reason that they have not won a Super Bowl yet. Legitimately. I think it's the offensive line. Or the Orlando Brown Jr. experiment at left tackle is not working. He is not a left tackle in the NFL. He needs to be put on the right side. Jonah Williams, hey, you know what? He's playing a little bit better now that he's at the right side. But again, the offensive line, I think, is the biggest issue here. Now, you could make an argument, hey, they're about to lose T. Higgins, possibly. They could just, instead of protecting the quarterback, get people who can get open really, really quickly. And that's exactly what they did when they passed up on Penei Sewell and they took Jamar Chase. But I think you have to go offensive line here. I don't see how you continue. Dude, he almost busted his calf running in training camp because the offensive line couldn't protect. No more. Run it and go get J.C. Latham. Even if he has to start at left guard for a year, while you run out. Did they take Williams' fifth-year option? Jonah Williams' fifth-year option?
They did not.
They did not. So, even then, you look at it, if Jonah Williams walks or you re-sign him, great. All you need to do is wait out Orlando Brown Jr.'s contract, which I don't think is that long. If I were to look it up, I don't think it's something where they gave him 9 years. They gave him 4. Oh, they gave him 4 years. Jesus. But still, you have to take a look at that offensive tackle. One of those guys can move into guard. One of those guys can move to right tackle. Jonah Williams can move into guard. Play JC Latham in at guard. It doesn't matter. Get an offensive lineman and then put your best 5 out there, whatever that is. Protect Joe Burrow because this is a Super Bowl winning team that's being held back by their offense. Do they need help on defense? Absolutely. And they lost a bunch of players. But protect your guy who you're about to pay $50 million a year.
Yeah. I listen, if there's a team that doesn't have too many holes out there, that it's kind of has built some depth, Cincinnati is it. So I think that they have the luxury that they can take best available. I think a sneaky, maybe not this high in the first round, but I think a sneaky need for them might be running back because I don't think Joe Mixon's coming back next year.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just didn't have a first round running back.
No. I don't either. So I don't blame you on that. But that leaves me up with Atlanta.
Yep.
Atlanta. So, I mean, they're going to have to figure out the quarterback position here, right?
Yep.
I got to be honest with you. I mean, quarterback makes the most sense.
Yep.
So I might try to force one here, but I'm not sold on any of these guys that are left. I mean, and again, I already said it once, I'm assuming Shedeur Sanders is off the table. I think
that he declares. You would have him here? I have two other quarterbacks above him.
I would consider him here. I know. I think both. I think Penix is a second round pick at best. I mean, the injury history just is what it is.
Yeah.
24-year-old quarterback. Bo Nix. I can't get on. I can't get on board with Bo Nix, man. The Bo Nix
in my eyes.
The Bo Nix Auburn days are just kind of burned into my brain.
Your retinas.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers, is he a first round caliber? I mean, talent. I just don't know.
I think he goes to. I heard this on another podcast where Quinn Ewers can't stay at Texas, right? Because he's got
Arch Manning,
and then the other guy, the kid that just started for them. What's his name?
Well, he started because Ewers is hurt.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm not. Yeah, but there's both of them chasing their tails. So the Arch Manning, either they need to start Arch Manning this year, or he's leaving, right? Because he's only going to redshirt once.
Yeah.
So if Ewers goes back to school for another year, I think he can solidify himself as a first round pick. If Caleb declares Quinn Ewers at USC is a match made in heaven. Goes from Ohio State, not from Ohio State. Yeah. Goes from Ohio to Texas to USC. What a path for Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
If he did it.
And listen, Quinn Ewers has the athletic traits that I think could be beneficial in the West Coast scheme that they run down Atlanta. I'm going to go ahead and like I said, I'm so tempted not to, but there's something about it that just makes sense to me. Not the strongest arm. We see, he's in the national spotlight these days. You see what he can do off platform, making stuff happen. And I just think the connection to Atlanta is so strong. Since you're allowing me to take Shedeur Sanders, he's going to be my pick for the Atlanta Falcons right here.
Interesting. Again, I don't have. So we'll talk about it because the Minnesota Vikings are up right now and at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is all on whether or not he can pass a physical, right? If he can pass a physical, I don't see a world in where Michael Penix is not QB3 on people's boards. Michael Penix's arm strength and ability and all of the things, and we've seen it go from school to school to school. The kid can play. The biggest question mark on him is, can he stay healthy? And that's the biggest question mark that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not going to take him in this position.
Whoa.
I'm going to take Bo Nix. I have Bo Nix as QB3. If you're looking for a quarterback to come in and start, not sit and develop, because you can't sit and develop a 24-year-old. Just can't do it. It's the same argument I had against Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, in my eyes, needed to sit a year. You're not going to take a 24-year-old to sit a year. So why are you going to take Kenny Pickett in the first round? Wait. Pittsburgh took him in the first round. Well, now look what's happening. That's besides the point. I think Bo Nix is ready to start in the NFL. And by going to a team like Minnesota, who has Justin Jefferson, who has another first-round receiver in Jordan Addison, they have a really solid offensive line. They can get that run game going and that defense starts to, get a little bit better. I think Bo Nix and the Minnesota Vikings immediately go right back to that conversation as a contender in the NFC, and I love this match. Now, if Penix passes a physical, which I don't think he can, I think that there are going to be teams where doctors are going to say, I can't let you draft this kid.
He's only stayed healthy in 1 of 5 college seasons without a major injury.
Catastrophic.
He's just Penix. I just can't.
I can't give the check mark.
I can't put him into the first round. I just can't do it.
I have a hard time. I have the same hard time. And it's not because of anything on tape. It's the history of injuries, because the tape is really good, but the injuries are really bad. And that's why I took Bo Nix here. I think Bo Nix, I would have taken Bo Nix with Atlanta, and then I would have taken Michael Penix here. That's where I look at it. I have Shedeur Sanders as a later first round quarterback, like your the guy that you trade back into the first round to go get. Mm-hmm. I have him in that same kind of conversation with like Riley Leonard and I think it's Michael Pratt. Out of Tulane. Is it Michael? I know his last name. It's Pratt. Yeah, it is Michael Pratt.
Michael Pratt. Yeah.
Michael Pratt and Jaden Daniels and Quinn Ewers. Those are the guys where, like, you know what? If you need a developmental guy to sit for a year and you have a guy who can, you trade back into the first round to get those guys so you have the 5th-year option on them. But there's a lot of, for the first time in a long time, second-round QBs. And I think that list starts right after. I think the 4 first-round QBs I have are May, Williams, Penix, Nix. And then you get your second-round guys who, if you want a 5th year, you go get them.
Yeah. That leaves me up next with Houston, right?
No, Pittsburgh.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Let me change my focus here then. Let me think about Pittsburgh. Oh, this to me is pretty easy.
Yep.
This to me is pretty easy. I'm going to stay close to home. I'm not going to stay in state. And I'm going to send the defensive back their way. And I'm going to send Denzel Burke, cornerback from Ohio State, to Pittsburgh. I mean, they're another team that has been trying for how long now to draft and put in defensive backs. I mean, they've been trying. I have this year in big spots. I mean, I just watched Kalen King like really, really far in depth, and that Ohio State game kind of scared me. Like big spots, big time receivers, and he just didn't play well. So I've kind of backed off of him a little bit. On the same token, I think Denzel Burke at almost 6'2", tall, fluid, at depth, both, can play man to man, can press up with the best of them. Phenomenal ball skills. I think he's going to be another one of those Ohio State defensive backs that just comes in and does a knockout job in the NFL. I think personally he's probably, he's in the conversation for the second best cornerback in this class. I think with Wiggins. So Denzel Burke's the pick.
Very interesting pick. I understand the concerns, obviously, with Kalen King. I would have taken Kalen King in this spot, but I think going cornerback has to be the move. Yeah. I know that when they just took the kid out of Penn State last year.
Joey Porter.
Porter, but he's playing well, but he needs help.
Yeah.
And I would have really looked at Cam Kitchens here, because Minka just got hurt today again.
Yeah,
He's
but that's a
getting up there in
hamstring.
age. It's just about, I would have looked that way at least, you
Yeah.
know,
I
but I
actually
get it.
think that I actually think that honestly, I mean, I know he in this draft he went well go, but I think Cooper DeJean is a really good pick here for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well if he's on the board because he offers you that ability to play all three spots, right?
Yeah.
He can play outside, he can play in the slot, he can play in a deep middle or at safety, so on and so forth. But if I'm idling in on defensive back, on cornerback, I took what was left as the best pure outside cornerback in Denzel Burke.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good pick. Houston is on the board here at 22, and CJ Stroud has absolutely blown up. I had him as QB1 for a reason. I got laughed at for having him as QB1. I didn't get laughed at, but I got some pushback for him having him as QB1. And I thought that the Texans should have done this last year. Instead, they traded up to get Will Anderson, and it seems to be working out for them. And even though I wasn't a big fan of that pick, this is a class that has a lot of wide receiver depth. And while they did take Tank Dell and he's looking good, and Nico Collins is emerging onto the scene now that they have a real quarterback down there, I think you need to find a wide receiver that fits in that Z role between Nico Collins is 6'4", Tank Dell's 4'11", 99 pounds, soaking wet, carrying all of his teammates' helmets. You need to find somewhere right in the middle. And I'm going to go back to Ohio State. You just took Denzel Burke. I'm going to go and get the other wide receiver out of Ohio State, and I'm going to get Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. And he bridges that gap between your Nico Collins, 6'4", 220 pounds, your Tank Dell, your shorter, swifty, quick wide receivers. And Emeka at, what is he, 6'1", 205 is right in the middle. I think he's 6'1", 205, right?
He's
He
about
is
that.
6'1", 205. Exactly what I thought. And now you have the versatility in your wide receiver room to say, you know what? Nico Collins is an X. But if he needs to play as a big slot, you can put him in the slot because Emeka can go outside. Oh, you don't want Emeka outside? You want Emeka in the slot? He can play in the slot. Well, you want to go 3 wide receivers? Put Nico outside, Emeka outside, and Tank Dell on the... You have so much versatility in that wide receiver room now. And I think that it is such a big need. And I think that now you can, at this point in time, you can put Texas in the conversation to maybe make some noise and a splash in the AFC South with that wide receiver room.
Yeah, listen. And it's Ibuka. The G is silent.
It's Ibuka.
Emeka Buka. Listen, I like that pick for them as well, and it makes sense. Like I said, like you said, they got the shifty slot guy in Tank Dell. They got their true X. Now you go get their Z guy, and Ibuka's a phenomenal, route runner, precise. CJ Stroud has just another weapon there, man. It's
ex-teammate.
Yeah, ex-teammate. I forgot about that as well.
I forgot about that until just now.
Yeah. So that leaves me on the board with who?
You have the San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco 49ers. Man, I can't believe they lost today too.
Yep.
So a couple questions I have for the San Francisco 49ers, right? What's the deal with Brandon Ayuk? Is he re-signing? Yeah. Do they bring him back? I think that they're stuck in Debo's contract for a little while. They're a team that needs to get younger on the defensive side of the ball as well. They got a good strong safety. I don't know if defensive back is the way I'm going to go. I mean, I know they God. Who did they play? Well, they got Tre'Davious Ward at defensive back. They got DeMondre Lenore. Yeah, cornerback might be an option. They signed Tayshaun Gibson in free agent. They drafted Jair Brown, I believe, last year as well. So the safety position looks kind of down pat. I'm torn between maybe looking to upgrade Yeah, Drake Jackson at edge, Clelin Ferrell's on a 1-year deal. Man, do they go outside or do I address the offensive line? That's where I'm stuck here.
I think if you want to, I would go offensive line. I think that there is a
Yeah, the right tackle
bigger
needs to
an upgrade.
needs an upgrade. I'm gonna go edge.
Oh, I love it.
I'm gonna go complete. I'm gonna go completely opposite of that of my theory here. I know that right tackle is a need, but I think that you can upgrade on Clelin Ferrell. I think you can upgrade for sure on Drake Jackson. I don't think he's proven to be anything, in what they thought they were drafting. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take a guy who I really like. I don't know exactly where the fit, if he is a true 3-down. I don't know if he's a true 3-down back yet or 3-down player, I should say, in this class. But he's really, really good at 6'4", 250 pounds. I'm going to go ahead and give him Dallas Turner and really try to upgrade opposite of Nick Bosa there in San Francisco. You get two guys, you get Dallas Turner coming off the edge, even if he starts out as a passer specialist to start. He's got enough chops where he can play, he can drop back and he can be that drop end and play some zone coverage at times if need be. He's actually shown to be much more of a linebacker than he has in the past. And again, their linebackers, Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner is all world. Oren Burks, they drafted D Winters last year, but maybe Dallas Turner can get some run on the outside, but I think at worst, what you're getting is a guy who can affect the game in an unnatural way. I mean, he just knows how to get at the quarterback. So I'm going to go ahead and take. This is way too. He should have been off the board, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and take Dallas Turner.
Is this not a San Francisco pick? Just take another first-round defensive lineman. That's what the Jets do, right? Just take another first-round defensive lineman and keep creating pressure. It's why they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. It's why the Jets have one of the best defense. Our first-round edge isn't getting all much that play time, and it's because, we don't need him to. And it works. Defense is dominant, and that's a different conversation about need or whatever. But now we move to 24, and the Buffalo Bills are on the clock. And now I'm torn between a rock and a hard place here.
Okay. Let's talk it out.
Because I'm staring down the barrel. If you're Buffalo, you're staring down the barrel of another year of Spencer Brown. And to be fair to Spencer Brown, much better performance this year overall.
I you know what? I don't want to interrupt you, but I thought he's played very well this year, up to the level that they thought they were getting when they drafted him in the 3rd round a few years back.
Yep. And that's what makes this difficult. Because is Spencer Brown's performance this year a one-hit wonder? Or has he figured out how to play in the NFL? And I think the key here is that your quarterback is Josh Allen. Because even if he is a one-hit wonder, Josh Allen has legs. He can move. He can create outside of the pocket, outside of the structure, better than any of them. There's a reason that they crowned them Super Bowl champions year after year after year, even though they haven't had any type of success in the playoffs. And it's because Josh Allen and his ability. Now, on the opposite side of that, you know who has kind of been a disappointment for them since they took him in the 4th round out of my school, UCF? Gabe Davis. Outside of 2021.
Yeah.
But Gabe Davis hasn't been what I think they want Gabe Davis to be, which is wide receiver 2. He's just not doing that for them this year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at Gabe Davis on the final year of his deal, and now you're talking about having to pay Gabe Davis, or instead of doing that, why not just get a Gabe Davis clone with a higher ceiling? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Rome Odunze, the wide receiver out of Washington, 6'3", 210 pounds. It makes too much sense. He is literally a carbon copy of Gabe Davis, but better.
I'll beg to argue on that. On the first part, I don't think he's a carbon copy. I
mean,
think
like
he's
size,
better.
like measurables, not player, but measurables. And now you have wide receiver 1B upside, wide receiver 2 upside, like really on a guy that's worth it. And now you have 5 years of control on a cheap contract. And there you go. Now you got Diggs, and now what should be wide receiver 2, and then Shakir in the slot, which is what you wanted.
Yeah,
they're not carbon copies. I didn't mean to say it, but I meant like size wise.
Yeah, I listen. I think that it's a great pick. I would have went wide receiver as well, and probably would have landed on Odunze myself for him. I think he's another guy who's really skyrocketed up the charts this year with his play. Listen, he's 6'3". He moves so smoothly. He gets vertical so smoothly. Yards after the catch, all that stuff. That's Rome Odunze, man. He's going to be a really, really good football player. He is the guy who, when I was thinking about wide receivers for the Jets, he was the guy I was honed in on before I took Armarius Mims. Just an FYI for you, the Jets fan.
Yeah, no, that's where I would have gone too. Just because while Abuka is a really, really, really nice prospect, he's kind of a Garrett Wilson clone, and we already have a Garrett Wilson. So getting a different type of big-bodied contested catch, big body guy, the guy that I think Jets fans think Allen Lazard is, but isn't, go get a real one in Rome, but with a much, much higher skill set.
Yeah. And that leaves me up with who?
The Cowboys.
The Cowboys. All right. Cowboys are interesting. Actually, they're not that interesting because I think I'm kind of locked in already. Let me just see one thing here. Yeah. So this is, I'm going to go ahead and say that I would love to get them, their left tackle of the future. I just don't think that there's one here that I'm willing to make that claim on right here and right now. So I look at this team. If you look at the Dallas Cowboys team, right, there's areas on the defense that can be addressed, right? You can, you can upgrade along the defensive line, and there's guys that, definitely make sense along this defensive line, whether it's Chris Jenkins, Leonard Taylor.
Wait, you're not going Leonard Taylor?
I am not going Leonard Taylor.
What? I thought that was such an easy pick. Leonard's right there. You just take him.
I am not going Leonard Taylor.
Oh, I am so intrigued.
Yes. I'm going to take a player who I think is slowly becoming one of my favorite in this entire class. He is a freak. He's got acceleration like I've seen no one have. He's as strong, he's physical, and he plays wide receiver. Give me the wide receiver from South Carolina, Xavier Leggett. 6'3", 230 pounds. And the guy flies all over the field. He's a bigger, faster Deebo Samuel with much better hands. This
is such a Dallas pick.
Give me the big guy. Finally, they get their replacement for Terrell Owens. When Terrell Owens left after all those years. Listen, Michael Gallup Hasn't been the same since he came back from that injury.
No.
Brandon Cooks is a shell of himself, right? So you have CeeDee in the slot. You need somebody to get some attention. Why is Tony Pollard not broken out like everyone expected him to do this year? Because he's facing a lot of heavy boxes, man. They don't respect the guys on the outside. Go get me Xavier Leggett, and this guy is the truth. He's definitely, mark my words on this, Tigo, on October 29th, he is a first rounder. Without a doubt, this guy is going to be special. He's got the height, weight, speed, physicality, acceleration, the hands, the everything you look for in a wide receiver, you get from Xavier Leggett. So I'm going to go ahead and take him and go against the grain and against the defense of this. Their defense has been playing lights out, man. Let's ride it again, and let's go get Dak Prescott some help, and let's open up some holes for Tony Pollard. I love it.
What a pick. One, because it makes my job for the Detroit Lions really easy. It's Leonard Taylor. Like, it's so easy. I'm just taking Leonard Taylor. But that's such a Dallas pick. I love Xavier Leggett. I've seen highlights of him.
Okay.
I haven't seen how does he play a rep when he's not the target? How is he in the run game and all those things? So I don't have a full evaluation of it. But when he's the target and when he gets the ball, boy, is he dynamic. It's the perfect that's such a Dallas pick. Oh, we need defensive interior help. We still haven't found a linebacker to replace what's his name? Who cares? Our CBs are 1 million years old. Who cares? Let's just go get another wide receiver again. And let's just do it. And I love it. But going to the Detroit pick, I'm going to take Leonard Taylor, the third, out of Miami. We know what the Lions are going to do on offense. And not going to sit here and lie to you. I did think about, at this point in time, maybe looking at one of those quarterbacks. There was a lot of guys that I liked here: Riley Leonard, Michael Pratt, Jaden Daniels, Quinn Ewers, and saying, you only have one more year of Jared Goff after this. Are you really going to extend him? And with a class that's so deep at quarterback, do you just take that? But those were conversations I was having when Leonard Taylor wasn't available.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a big man in the middle. Hutchinson is doing incredible things as your edge and getting and creating pressure there. Get him some help on that defensive line. I know that they've spent a lot of assets on that defensive line, but outside of Hutchinson, they haven't been really using premium assets on that defensive line. And while the pick was either going to be quarterback or corner, because I did not think that Leonard Taylor would be here at this point in time, he is. So you go get another guy to start solidifying that defensive interior, because we know that the Lions can score and we know that they can't stop other teams from scoring. So stop other teams from scoring by getting Leonard Taylor.
I like it, man. I like it. It makes sense. And that puts me up with Baltimore.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, I'm off. I was thinking Baltimore here.
All right, I get Baltimore next.
That's fine. Jacksonville, huh?
Yep.
Let's talk about Jacksonville for a little bit.
Let's do it.
I thought I was on Baltimore, so my whole thing got all screwy here. Jacksonville has been playing good ball, right?
Yeah,
they've been playing really good ball. So I don't think I'm gonna address the skill positions. I think that they're probably good in the skill positions. I mean, maybe you can consider an upgrade to Zay Jones. I know Calvin Ridley's under contract for one more year. Christian Kirk obviously is under contract for a couple more. So a wide receiver might be in the cards. Probably a sneaky little need for them, as a matter of fact, for a guy that can step in, maybe not make headway in 2024, but a guy that can, be there for when Ridley goes off the board, or Christian Kirk. Am I actually talking myself into wide receiver? Because now it makes a lot more sense. They got the offensive line. They got some good pieces. They spent the pick on Anton Harrison at the right tackle. They got Cam Robinson, I believe, is the left tackle.
Yep.
The defensive backfield here is where I'm going to address, and again, I think this is just a best player available. Although I'm really tempted to, now that I think about it, go towards a wide receiver position. I'm not going to, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Kalen King.
Yep.
I'm going to take the defensive back. I think he probably moves into nickelback at the next level, but he has the chops to play on the outside. I know they have Antonio Johnson. They drafted out of Texas A&M last year as the eventual replacement for Trey Herndon. But Kalen King can flop outside and play opposite of Tyson Campbell, who's actually hurt at the moment. I think if there's any need on that team, that's probably the area we're going to go. I mean, I thought about Cam Kitchens as well, to come in and play opposite of Andre Cisco, but they're both probably more free safety than they are in box, although Cam can do a lot. I thought about, like I said, I talked myself into actually wanting a wide receiver. I think wide receiver is a sneaky scenario that Jacksonville can go. But let's go ahead and let's bring in Kalen King, and hopefully he can get the big game jitters out of him when he's got to face Anthony Richardson and the Colts twice a year and whoever else Jacksonville plays down there in the South. So
Interesting.
Kalen King.
That is a very, very interesting place to go. Not because of anything other than the fact that I really hoped you didn't take him, because that would have made my job really, really easy with Baltimore. You just take the DB.
Yeah.
But now you're in a position where you can't really take Cam Kitchens because you just spent a first-round pick on Hamilton, and he's playing well in his second year. You have Stone, who you found for free in the 7th round, and he's playing lights out this year. You have the second best linebacker duo in the NFL with Smith and Queen.
Mm-hmm. I think Queen's up. He might be up, but
yeah, he is up.
But I hear what you're saying.
Do you?
If you're asking me my opinion,
the pick is on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
The question is, like, recently, didn't they just take Odafe Owe in the first round at like 30 something?
Yeah, 3 years ago he was a first rounder, Odafe Owe.
They have Jadeveon Clowney starting. I'm trying to talk myself into, do you take Braylon Trice or Latu at this point? Or do you maybe try to go for a Josh Newton or a Barrett Carter and try to figure out something in that range?
So I think that if you're asking me,
I
think both Latu and Braylon Trice make sense for different roles. I think Latu plays the edge, and I think he does it very well. And I think that's your Jadeveon Clowney replacement. No questions asked. I think Braylon Trice kind of is your 5 tech. He's your Leonard Williams role for the Giants, and that's exactly what he does well. He plays a run very well. He is a one-trick pony against the pass. Braylon Trice, he's a bull in the china shop. If he can't beat you with power, he's not going to beat you. So, but he does stand up and hold ground and play the run very well. I think that's his fit at the next level. I don't think he's going to be a traditional edge on a 4-3. I liken Braylon Trice to a little bit better, not a little bit, but a better version of what Michael Clemens is for us, for the Jets.
If that's the case, then I think I'm going to go Trice. I think that they've spent a lot of picks. They have Owe. Obviously, they have Clowney on the roster right now. They have Ojabo. They have those guys on the outside. Mm-hmm. I believe they play a 3-4.
They do.
So putting him as an end, not an outside linebacker, but as an end, Leonard Williams, and what he does for the Giants. That once you said that, I think that convinced me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Braylon Trice out of Washington.
And I'm up.
Yes, you are
with
the Seattle Seahawks.
And you made this easy. Since you didn't take him, I'm going to go ahead and take Leatu Latu from UCLA, the defensive edge, defensive lineman, all world pass rusher. Listen, again, the guy had to medically retire at one point. So that, he's going to have to be cleared. I think if that neck injury isn't a thing, I think you're talking about a top 10 talent in Latu. And he can actually come in and really play a role immediately for the Seahawks, who are always, for some reason, in need of those rushers. Boye Mafe is there, and he's actually played okay. They just lost their what's the linebacker's name that they lost over there? I can't think of his name right now.
Not sure.
Come on, yes, you know it.
Not for Seattle. I know who because they brought him, the guy, back to replace him because he got hurt. I know who you're. I know
Uchenna Nwosu.
There it is.
There it is. So, listen, I think Latu can come in right away, probably play opposite Boye Mafe in place of Darrell Taylor. They did draft Derek Hall in the second round last year out of Auburn, who's nice. They just paid and brought in Frank Clark to give them a spark alongside a Boye Mafe and something like that. So it's a position of need for them. I think, to me, Latu in this spot makes a ton of sense. So that's the pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Now I have the Miami Dolphins, and as we know, they're probably going to have to forfeit this pick because they're going to call Andrew Luck or whatever. No, but the reality is that if you're going to look at a team that is almost complete, the Miami Dolphins are as close to a complete football team as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
If they stay healthy, they've got a really, really good football team. And that's a big if, right? Because they can't seem to stay healthy. But if you're the Dolphins, you need to figure out this offensive line issue. They can't stay healthy. They're not playing well anywhere across the offensive line, from the interior all the way to the exterior. I think they have Liam Eichenberg as a center now. Which is
Connor Williams is the center, but he's been hurt, and Liam Eichenberg is the backup. Correct.
Which is crazy to me. I liked Liam coming out, and it's crazy to see the career that he's had. The fact that he's still on the board at this point, I think, is one of those, you just count your cards and you take your blessings. I think you have to take Graham Barton here, whether he's going to play right tackle or guard or what. He will find a spot on that offensive line because they have what's his name? They from the Saints. They paid him big money to come over and play tackle.
Teron Armstead,
who is again hurt.
Yeah.
But if you go and say, okay, Teron Armstead is healthy, okay, he's your left tackle. Then Graham Barton is on the team. Okay, he's your right tackle. Well, now you've got some good bookends. And if everybody else can get healthy, and now you can start building up an offensive line, well, now you're talking about a team that can make a run, legitimately make a run for a Super Bowl. And we'll see. I did contemplate getting some DB help, because I think they need it. I think they need help at the DB position. They have two of the best corners in the game. And I think, I don't think it's hyperbole of saying that of Jalen Ramsey. Dude played out of his mind today. Out of his mind. First game back off of a leg injury. Dude blowed it up. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Kader, I think it's Kohu.
Kader Kohu, yep.
Kader Kohu, one of the best slots in the game. But Eli Apple can't do it. Xavier Howard, he's washed. If you can help that DB room in that way, I would think about doing that.
Yeah.
But you gotta protect your asset in Tua if he is still the quarterback there next year, which we have no idea. but the dude's a walking injury, so try to keep him upright. Graham Barton, tackle.
I love the fit. And like you said, he can plug in, and Graham Barton can legitimately play all five spots on the offensive line. I hate the Dolphins. Love that pick for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it hurts. I want them to call Andrew Luck. That'd be great. And then they lose their first round pick and back to like that would be an ideal. But I have to be true here, and I can't just make like a ridiculous pick. I was gonna look up whoever had the fastest 40 time and just take him because of course, but at wide receiver. But let's be real here. And I had to take Graham Barton. You're on the clock with the Kansas City Chiefs at 31.
Kansas City Chiefs at 31. Oh, man. So, I know what I'm going to do with Kansas City Chiefs. Again, maybe a little bit off the beaten path, but hear me out. Probably not a name that you would expect for the Chiefs, but for me, it makes a ton of sense. I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball.
Love it.
I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to take tight end Ja'Tavion Sanders out of Texas. He's a first-round talent. I don't know if you've seen him play yet or if you watch him this year, but, I mean, hands, the short and intermediate route running and receiving skills are good. Not good. They're excellent. He's just a natural playmaker. He's not the burner. He's not Kyle Pitts. He's not Dalton Kincaid in regards to his, abilities in the slot or as a route runner. But the guy just finds the ball, takes it, finds the soft spots in the zone. Like I said, catches, strong hands, catches well in traffic. He can run precise routes, even though he's not asked to run the deep ones. He's not going to burn, he's not going to burn safeties up the seam all the time. But he's just a really natural, good receiver of the football. Perfect segue, perfect pipeline piece to Travis Kelce. I mean, I'm not comparing Sanders to Kelce, but listen, if there was somebody that I had to throw a dart and with a comp, it's a very young Travis Kelce. Ja'Tavion Sanders can turn into, if he can develop the inline blocking skills that Kelce has, I think Ja'Tavion Sanders can be Kelce-like, as he matures and really understands the nuances of the NFL game. There's receivers here. I thought about Xavier Worthy. He's probably going to go somewhere in the first round. To me, I think Worthy's right now is a one-trick pony, and they got tons of those guys over there.
Yeah.
So I just went a little bit off the beaten path and went Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Wow is the only thing that I'm going to say. I'm going to say more, obviously. But, I mean, the reason I'm going to say wow is just, one, because of the things that you said about Brock Bowers. You only had 31 of 32 teams would love to draft him. And the one team that you said that wouldn't is the Kansas City Chiefs because they have Travis Kelce. And here we are, some 20-something picks later, and they're taking a tight end in the first round.
I thought, like I said, I looked around and I said, best player available. Like I said, I thought about Worthy. I thought about Cam Kitchens. They're solid in the defensive backfield, right? They're not going to take a quarterback. Could they have taken some and got some beefier defensive linemen? Possibly, possibly a guy like Mason Smith. Maybe you take Pat Paul and have him play the right side, right offensive tackle. I don't know, but like I said, I took what I thought was the best player available for the team right then and there in Ja'Tavion Sanders.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't like the pick. I do. I like the pick. I would have specifically gone wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I would have gone with his teammate, who is the pick that I'm going to make here for the Philadelphia Eagles at 32.
Mitchell?
I am going to take Mitchell.
Wow.
The reason behind it is we know that A.J. Brown is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. We know that. That's a thing. And while they have wanted Devontae Smith to be the wide receiver 2 for that football team. I don't think that he has the physical makeup to do it. It is known, it is public information that I am not a Devontae Smith fan. Not. The same concerns that I had with JMO and his size and his durability all stemmed from Devontae Smith and his size and durability. And while, yes, Worthy is available here, Worthy is just another Devontae Smith. 6 foot, 160 pounds. It's literally Devontae Smith's measurables, right? 6 foot, 160 pounds. We don't want to do that. Well, what is Mitchell? Mitchell is a bigger body than AJ Brown. AJ Brown is 6'1", 200 and something pounds. Well, Adonai Mitchell, AJ Brown is that. Adonai Mitchell's what? 6'3", 6'4"? You know, let me pull up his measurables. He is 6'4", 200 pounds. And now you're looking at a guy who's not only going to be able to really actually help in that tush push, right? Because Devontae Smith as that wide receiver pushing in the backfield, that doesn't do much. I'm not sure that he could lift up Jalen Hurts. But I think that is probably where you end up going if you're Philadelphia and you're trying to address this wide receiver room. We've seen now with this year that offense is not as high flying and as powerful as people believe it to be. And I think a big part of that is that they seem to be, as an offense, or at least this year, a one-trick pony. It's get the ball to A.J. Brown or hope that Hurts can pull off some magic with his legs and then maybe hand the ball off to Swift every once in a while. And that's it. So for me, it's Mitchell. Did I look at the linebacker, Barrett Carter out of Clemson? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did I look at and think about a cornerback because Slay and Bradbury are on their last years? Yeah. But passing up on the potential of an Adonai Mitchell at 6'4", 200 pounds, smooth route running, all of the stuff that he comes, that's where I went. And so that's the pick that I'm going to make, ending our first round.
So some good names still left on the board too, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we took any true safeties in Cam Kitchens or Tyler Nubin. Lots of defensive edge players, lots of defensive interiors still left on the board. We didn't take a linebacker in the first round, which is probably unlikely. There's probably one going to go off this year, especially.
Yeah. I thought about Carter really, really hard.
Yeah.
I almost took Carter. They have the need at linebacker. They have that. And like I mentioned earlier, that's probably the pick that they would do in this position because there'd be so many good wide receivers left on the board. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you'd assume that one of them would fall to you. If not, you can always trade up into the second round. Like there was a lot of that. Having the 5th year on Mitchell, I thought was such an important aspect where I think you can find maybe some linebackers in the second and in the third that'll give you the value that you would get in Carter, where I don't think you're going to get Mitchell value at the bottom of the second.
Yeah. No, I agree. Listen, it's early October. We don't know exactly where these guys are going to end up. But it's good to just get into the routine for all you guys watching this, you know, or listening to it in podcast form. Get used to some of these names. Get used to some of the positions. Do yourself a favor and watch some highlights on them, or you know, or even more. Even take the plunge and you know. Get a service. Watch some actual coach film on these guys. We're here to kind of help educate you guys for what's coming down the pike in April. And listen, truth be told, I'm already knee deep in it, and I haven't watched nearly as much film on these 32 right here that yet to date. So I still got a lot of educating myself too. So early in the process, there's still the Senior Bowl week. There's still the combine. There's still all that stuff that leads up to April where these names are going to change. Guys are going to fly up. Some guys are going to completely drop off. So, hey, it's good. It's a good exercise, and it's good to get used to it. Used to doing it.
And the good thing is that as the year goes on, I don't expect the Giants to be picking at 4. Think that if Daniel Jones gets back and that offensive line gets healthy, they might win some more games.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Jets are going to be picking as high as 17. There's so many
Or
things.
as low as 17. You never know.
Or as low as 17, Aaron Rodgers declares he's ready and healthy and he's back next week. Who knows, But there's so much volatility that can happen. And a great example of that is, where's JJ McCarthy going to end up in the rankings? Because he hasn't played a single opponent that's worth a damn at Michigan yet. So while his tape is so good now, what does that look like in the college football championship?
He's quarterback 3. Stop fighting it. He's
incorrect.
3. He's quarterback.
I don't have him there yet. I see why. Why. We'll do a video of the quarterbacks. We can talk about it. But there's that. Well, what if Caleb goes back? What if Shedeur goes back?
Yeah.
What if Quinn Ewers goes back? What if there's so much of that. We all had Jared Verse in our top 5 last year. And out of nowhere, he surprised all of us and went back. I love doing these exercises and I love having these conversations because week to week, teams' needs are going to change. Week to week, their positions and their grades are going to change. And as you and I, Dom, dive deeper into these players, some of these guys are going to skyrocket up boards. A great example of that is Xavier Leggett being at 25, where I don't have him in my top 20, my top 32 now.
Get used to that name, my brother. Or
another one, Denzel Burke. That one blew me out of the water, and I get it, but I didn't have him there, and there's a lot of those guys where you're just having these you start having these conversations, and now I got to go look at Denzel Burke a little bit more interesting. Mm-hmm. Now I got to look at Jatavian Sanders a little bit more interesting, and a little bit more with a keen eye and all of these guys. And it's a fun exercise. We got so much time to do. And here's the best part. After the draft, you and I get to go back to this and see just how wrong we were. And that's going to be so much fun.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, this is just one of many. This is version 1.0. Hopefully our intentions are, Tigo and I, to give you one of these every so often, whether it's weekly, whether it's every 10 days, whether it's every 2 weeks. We want to get used to this practice, and we'll change it up every so often. But, for now, October 29th, we got a mock out, man. I'm pretty stoked, dude. How about you?
I am too. I love talking about these prospects, and maybe we don't do a mock every week, but maybe we take a deep dive and we talk about specific positions and what did they look like this last week. But whatever it is, we're going to be talking draft prospects because we have to. These are the prospects that are going to be running the NFL sooner rather than later. So let's get used to their names because why not?
That's right. Hey, everyone watching this, everyone listening in podcast version, we appreciate it. For my guest Tigo and myself, we are the Draft Dodgers. We're going to be here a lot. Tune in, give us a like, follow us. Tigo, you want to tell them where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, so Talking Jets with Tigo, it's where I talk about Jets stuff. If you're a Jets fan, head over there and hit that. Here we're talking about prospects. And then on X, if you want to follow me, also right there, it's Jets with Tigo. And yeah, I would only say is mute me on game day because I'm wildly emotional on game day. But other than that, I tweet some funny things sometimes. So hit the follow button. And don't forget, hit the subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Hit the like button. It helps more than you know. And last but not least, don't forget to leave your sacrifice in the comment section to the algorithm gods to help us out.
Yeah. Again, on behalf of Tigo, my name's Dom C. You can find me on Twitter at DC_NYJets. You can follow the channel Project Prospect. See all sorts of different cuts and videos and shorts and all of your NFL draft insight right here Until next time, Tigo, it's a pleasure.
Always fun.
Guys, thank you. We'll see you soon.